Are you sick of paying for cable TV programming? 10 years ago, I was too, so I looked at some other options. Hi, I'm Michael Wharf. I'm a vlogger who vlogs about art and technology, and sometimes right in the middle where those two intersect. And if it's your first time here, welcome. Cable TV used to be the only game in town. It used to be that 10 years ago, everyone had a cable TV subscription to watch their favorite programming. Not so much anymore with options like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime. There's a lot of streaming TV options, but there's also a lot of options, if you're a little technical, to create a home entertainment server that you can go ahead and put all your movies on and have a one-stop shop to have your music, your podcasts, your TV, and your movies centrally in one place, nice and private for you to consume without paying over $100 a month for cable TV. So I don't have an issue with a cable TV subscription as much as I do advertising. In the old days, you put up an antenna and you received TV content for free over the air. And when you did that, your cost to watch it was consuming advertisers. Advertisers paid for that content to be programmed, and your payment was your attention to watch all of those ads and buy all their products and services. But with cable TV subscriptions, we ended up paying for our content, and that's great because the amount of content that was created added a lot more variety, a lot more quality. But somewhere along the way, something happened. We still paid more and more for cable TV, and cable TV never dropped the advertising. And so I have a problem with either consuming content and watching ads for free, which is a great barter, that's a great exchange. But I have a problem with paying $100 a month and watching advertising. Today, people have less and less time. So consuming advertising takes a ton more time out of your day. Even watching TV, let's face it, watching TV is kind of a waste of time. So if you have a half an hour show, that's 22 minutes of content and 8 minutes of advertising, that's 8 minutes you could spend doing something else. And I know that people usually go on their phone when the ads come on, or go to the washroom, or go get a drink or whatever. And TV advertising is really not effective. But we still have to watch it even though we pay for the content. Are there other options? Absolutely. And I wanted to create this video to show you some of those options that I've done in my home and what other options are available to you that you might be able to cut the cord as well. One of the easiest ways to cut the cord on your cable TV subscription is to simply put up an antenna. And I'm not talking about the old rabbit ears from the 60s and 70s. I'm talking about a digital antenna. And these antennas can either go up in your attic or they can connect right beside your TV. And they get digital signals that the broadcasters locally will send, so you can get your local channels, local news, local sports, and things people can't do without. I live in a smaller city. There's not a lot of options available to me. In fact, there's only 3 channels. But in larger centers, at least a couple hours north of me, you can get 6 really solid digital channels, and the quality is amazing. Because these antennas are digital, we get the true 4K or high definition signals that we would get through our cable box. So actually you get a nicer picture in some instances, and it doesn't degrade going through your cable provider. So those are awesome. If you want to watch news, sports, local top shows, local programming, an HD antenna is an awesome way to go. They're around $50 and they're super easy to set up. You just plug them in, scan for the available channels, and then they're locked in, and you change the input when you want to go from antenna to another source. A second option is to subscribe to a streaming service like Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime. These services have some great content without commercials and around $15 a month. You need a device that's going to play that content back. So if you're not on your phone or a tablet or a computer, you're going to have a device like a Chromecast, which is something you can send a signal from your phone or other places, your computer, to your TV, or something a little more permanent that's set up to your TV. Game consoles work awesome for this purpose. So when it comes to streaming services, we subscribe to Netflix and Amazon Prime. I'm a little leery of Netflix lately because the amount of filler content seems to be going up, and the Netflix original stuff that I see, it feels a little low production. It doesn't feel like it's keeping up with the original content you might get from a Hollywood studio, and that's understandable, but I feel that they're really pushing for quantity over quality. So what other options are there available to us? Another option would be getting a device like a DVR or digital video recorder. Now these are boxes that are around $150. You can set them up, hook them up to your antenna that you've got that's getting those digital channels, and they have something called a tuner inside them. And a tuner is what's able to translate the signals from your antenna into the picture you see on your television. In the case of a DVR, you'd want multiple tuners, and that way you can watch a show while you're recording a show, because it can take two channels and bring them to two tuners. And so if you were watching the news but needed to record the game or do something, all of that's available to you. And keep in mind that content that you see over the air from that antenna is all free. You can't really do anything about the commercials, but that some DVRs are smart enough to have a 30-second advance with live TV, sort of like the TiVo of yesteryear, where you can go ahead and just smash those commercials, get through them, and have a little bit of a lag while still watching live. That's a super nice feature. And those things are around $150. It's not a big deal. You attach them to an external hard drive, and you can record your shows as big as your hard drive, as big as the hard drive you put in it. So for around $200, you could really do a nice setup. This holiday season, I had a little bit of time on my hands, and so I wanted to use it to tinker. I'm a tech guy. I'm a little more geeky than the average person, but I work with other tech people, so I take it for granted that they have a similar system like this set up. And when I started talking to people, I realized they didn't. So I want to show you what I currently use for cable cutting here at home. So I'm in the middle of editing this video and realized that it's pretty freaking boring. Looking at myself in just a nice tight headshot, yammering about some technology stuff is okay, but I thought it would be better if I actually showed you my Plex media server. So I'm just at the computer and I'm gonna screen record some stuff. Let's dive into Plex and see what this thing's all about. So we're here at my house and I've got a web browser open on my computer. And if you go to a certain web address, I bought a domain, so I have a domain, Warpheus.com. I used to have a nickname. Someone gave it to me, like the Matrix Morpheus, Warpheus. I know, right? So I just needed a cheap utility domain to put my media server on so I could access it on the internet. So if I go to plex.warpheus.com, that's the address for my Plex installation. It wants me to sign in. And when I do, I have web access to my Plex server. So I'm on my computer and I've got a whole bunch of media ready to go. And if I'm on my laptop anywhere in the world, as long as I can get to my Plex server, I can watch stuff. So I can do the same thing on my phone, but you can see I've got, looks like Netflix. It's got a whole bunch of media, what I've been watching, what I can watch, very similar to a Netflix experience. And I've got all the cover, all of my media is cataloged and ready to go. And if I want to watch it, I could just hit play and it will stream online on my home network, but also now on the internet. So the neat thing about Plex is that it's not just for movies. I have it for TV shows, for podcasts, for music, pretty much any media around the house. And as long as someone knows that web address and they have an account on my Plex server, they can watch it. So we have an Android TV, something called an NVIDIA Shield, and it's a little box like an Apple TV that just sits on the main TV in the house. And it has the Plex client as well as some streaming stuff. So I have the CBC app, the CTV app. Most local TV stations and Canadian networks anyway have an app that you can watch broadcast television on. If you're a news junkie, I've got a news app as well, but that's built right into Plex. So as you can see, if I wanted to watch Big Buck Bunny, I could go and check it out. I could play it, stream it, or I could sync it to my devices. I could sync it to an iPad, sync it to a phone, and take it with me on a trip. So let's see. Right now, this has recently added TVs and movies. As you can see, I'm watching a few TV series right now. Recent movies are things that are copied from Blu-ray or are pulled from other sources on the internet. But if I wanted to watch the news, if I was a news junkie, I don't have to give that up. I have a newscast that Plex puts together for me, and the quality is streaming, so it starts out a little chunky and then it gets better over time. Usually it takes about 30 seconds for the picture to get nice and crisp, but I can sit here and watch, there we go, the Associated Press, AP News Minute, and just get almost like a CNN style update on what's going on in the world. And this looks exactly the same on the TV as it does on a phone or an iPad. And we can see that there's a bunch of content. I have user accounts, so I'm going to use my user account. This works very similar to other things you've probably been used to. And if I don't have a certain piece of content and someone who has access to my Plex server wants it, there's a request system. So outside of Plex, we have another little website called Ombi. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in on my account into Ombi. And I can see that there are movies that it is suggesting to me that is being either upcoming or online right now. Say I wanted to watch Big Bang Theory. It'll search in its database what that is, and I can either put in a generic request, or I can say all season, first seasons, or the latest season. And if I want the latest season, I could just cherry pick a specific show. And I've asked for the latest season, so it's gone ahead and talked to my media server and said, hey, figure out a source for all the latest seasons of Big Bang Theory, download them, clean them up, make them look pretty, push them to my Plex server, and then Ombi will send a little notification to my watch or my phone and let me know they're ready to go and ready to watch. So a media server is just a computer or a device attached to your network at home that is central, that has tons of content, whether it be movies or TV or audio. If you're used to having playlists or personalized profiles or movie trailers or nice, beautiful posters when you log in to see all of that content, that Plex is really the solution for you. I gotta tell you, my friend Frank said to me the other day, the first rule about downloading is you don't talk about downloading. So we're not gonna talk about downloading in this video, but we are gonna talk about things like BitTorrent and things like newsgroups, and those are buzzwords in the piracy community because that's the technology that people use to put content that really often isn't theirs onto their own personal media servers and share those files throughout the internet. And that's really what Hollywood is not happy about. So technologies like BitTorrent and newsgroups are not shady or illegal. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. So if you buy into that, number one, I'm going to tell you, do not look to this video or to myself for any legal advice. So I told you about that Plex media server that I built. And it's great because we can take things that we have on Blu-ray or on disc. We can basically get all of that content on a local share and have it streamed like Netflix to all the TVs in the house. That's really helpful. But if you wanted to expand that content, you'd have to go ahead and install some kind of file sharing service. And if you did, you would be exposing yourself to some risk on the internet. And so what do I mean by that? Well, your internet service provider, by law here in Canada, has to keep 6 months of activity logs of the things that you do in case you're doing something nefarious. And if you're doing something nefarious, the law can ask for that 6 months of activity to implicate you in the types of bad things that you were doing. So the first thing, if you're going to deal with anything around downloading, is to use something called a virtual private network, or VPN. I particularly enjoy the services from Private Internet Access. This is not a sponsored video, so I'm just saying this is my own personal experience. They've been awesome. I see lots of ads for other ones like NordVPN, and I'm sure there's countless others, but their service, you pay them either monthly or annually. And VPN software, like Private Internet Access, acts like your banking software. It scrambles the content so that people who are really interested in looking at the logs and the activity of what you're doing, and they're not part of that relationship between the computer on one side and your destination and you, they're sort of watching the traffic go by. It encrypts that traffic so you keep your privacy. And the only thing they can see is, yes, the internet's being used, but they can't really tell what type of internet you're using. So that could be, oh, I'm watching a game, or I'm talking on the phone, or I'm streaming video content, or I'm sharing files. You want to encrypt that traffic, not because necessarily that you're doing anything bad, but because privacy is huge online. And that's it. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today, about cutting cable, cutting the cord, exploring other options, and setting up a media server. If you'd like me to do an in-depth dive on any of these topics, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video.